yeah, I'm just reading a tweet that Joel Embiid stayed around after shoot-around for 15 minutes to partake in extra shooting drills. He's ready. But we're also ready for some football. Big Thursday night football game. This is huge. Who would have thought this game would be for supremacy in the NFC East at the start of the season? But the Washington Commanders, even losing to the Steelers last week, are right there. And I don't know if it's a must-win for the Commanders. We'll see how our next guest sees it. He is John Keim. He covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. Hello, John. How you feeling?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. So the narrative of this, it's not really a must-win game for the Commanders, but since they lost to Pittsburgh, they got some ground to make up. And if the Eagles win this game, that's 2 games in the loss column. So how are the Commanders approaching this coming off a short week?
I wouldn't call it a must-win simply because, they have a good schedule coming up after that. So, I mean, their goal, obviously you want to win the division, but I think after the other day, they're a bit banged up right now. To call it a must-win would be difficult, just because then what? And I think that, you know what I mean? So I don't view it that way. I don't think they view it that way. I think it's more, how do you respond from a tough loss the other day when you are banged up?
Yeah, it's a very physical game against the Steelers, obviously, and the Eagles got a little less of a load on Sunday. So, how mentally prepared and physically prepared will Washington be for a challenge like this early?
I think mentally prepared, fine, because I think one of the things that really jumped out with this team is a couple things. One, they're very, very tough-minded team, and they play tough. And I think they handle situations well. And I say situation because whether it's a big win, whether it's a tough loss, they've responded the same way each time, right? So I think they'll handle that part well. The injury part is always hard. Like Brian Robinson did not play last week because of a hamstring injury. Not sure yet his status. You had Marshawn Lattimore, whom they traded for, could have been a big help against Pittsburgh last week for sure, but he's out with a hamstring injury, and I have my strong doubts that he'll play Thursday. They have Andrew Wiley, their right tackle, missed the other day with a shoulder injury. I don't know his status. So, there are things that are piling up for them for a short week that would make it more difficult, right? Not impossible, but more difficult. And, but I don't worry how they respond mentally because I think this is a strong mental team.
Second most efficient offense in the NFL. They're pretty good. Defensive, really kind of still a work in progress. So when you look at the Eagles now, they've flipped the script. They're more rushing oriented, and they do the sparingly big play that has helped Hurts be, not exactly a game manager, but close. He's still making big plays, but based off the running attack.
Yeah, and that's the problem for this team because they have struggled to stop the run consistently. So I think that's an area of concern. And, why that is, it kind of varies from game to game. The Giants ran crazy on them in the first half a couple weeks ago. And then the second half, it was more third down pass coverage, where then they stopped the run in the second half, but they were double teaming the tackles and creating, the math won out in those situations, always had the numbers advantage, but they were double teaming the tackles. They kind of got rid of, they were able to kind of get away from that or stop that, but it's been a problem. So I think that, and Barkley is obviously as good a back as there will have faced this year. So I think sometimes it's guys getting out of position a little bit. Sometimes it's guys not filling the hole quick enough, or the gap is a little bit too wide for a safety coming up to fill. You know what I mean? So it's just one problem after another with that, but that has been a consistent issue.
Talking to John Keim, covering the Commanders with their owner, who will be courtside to Sixers tonight, and then I guess I'll go home and rest for a couple of days, and then show up at the at the Commanders game as the owner, which is very odd for all of us to process here. But talk to me about this quarterback, Jaden Daniels. I didn't see it coming. I got to be honest with you. I didn't think he was going to be this successful this early. And now there's a conversation, even in Philadelphia. Who would you rather have, Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts? So talk to me about this kid.
I thought he'd be good because of it just because you're around him, right? And around him in the spring, around him in the summer. So before the season even started, I thought he was going to be a good quarterback because the work he puts in. And it's next level, and then you combine it with the talent he has, the deep ball accuracy that he has, and the smart play that he brings, and it's not surprising to me that he's off. Now, there are some games you're like, all right, this is going beyond what I thought he'd be right now. But even before the season, Zach Ertz, obviously former Eagle, I was talking to him about it. He goes, I'm not saying that he's going to be good down the road. I'm telling you he's good right now. This is before the season started. And I can tell internally that's how the coaches were feeling, like how high they were on him. So, I think Jalen's done a nice job. I think in a year or two, I'm not sure that a lot of people would ask that question.
John, in Philadelphia, it seems like the fans are a little reluctant to go all in on this Eagles team as being a contender. So I'm curious, you on the outside looking in, what do you think about this Philadelphia Eagles team this year?
I think they're still the team to beat in the NFC East. I mean, that defense is playing really well, and the secondary seems like it's very good right now. And you got to, it's funny because that defense usually had been built on the D line, but the secondary, the back seven, has looks like they're playing really well. I think the offense is operating at a high level just because of the going to the run game emphasis and using Saquon Barkley, and then you mix in the ability with Jalen Hurts to get the ball to the playmakers. I mean, it's really the only thing that you always wondered about from the outside, to be honest, is like how are things going to go with Sirianni and the team. That was the big thing. But the talent and the potential there. And the last 5 weeks, looks like from the outside, it's looked really good.
Oh, interesting that you bring up the coach, because I was just about to ask you this. As an out-of-town reporter of the NFL, what is your perception of Nick Sirianni?
I don't know that you put him in the upper tier, right?
You're going to insult my partner Bill here. That's all right. Keep going, John.
No, what I will say is, though, they have, outside of the stretch last year at the end, it's still been a good team. And the way I look at it more so than just Sirianni, it's the organization. Like, it's a really good organization. And I just kind of look at it like that because the Howie Roseman is as good as you'll find as a GM, and that front office is really good. And if I think that to me is the key to everything there. So I don't with Sirianni. I mean, he's fine, but I don't know. From an outside perspective, I don't look at him as certainly not like Mike Tomlin, whom they faced last week.
Does he come off as odd to the rest of the league?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I haven't spent a lot of time talking to people, but yes, I would say it's certainly. I would say this comes off as being a little bit different. The whole thing after the scene in the Cleveland game was a bit odd, So yeah, the front office is really good. And I don't. That's not. And I don't know. The hard part is to know. I'm not close enough to that to know what kind of how good a coach is he. But I do know that organization is built off of what that front office does.
So you think that? I think you mentioned when you look at the Eagles, maybe he could be the weak link.
Well, I think the relationship within that building seems to go with him, the players, and how it was with Jalen Hurts last year. That to me is the thing that, as an outsider, that I'm curious to see. That to me would be the one. What could hold them back, and it's got to be that, right?
Yeah, John, I'm not going to hit you with the fact that he has the best winning percentage in franchise history or the most road wins in the NFL over the last 3 years. I'm not going to give you any of that.
Hey, that's. I just know, I don't, and that's what I say. I'm not close enough to know. I just know what I've read. And when you talk, that's always.
Don't worry about it.
But the other side are facts.
Listen, John, I'm on an island here, man.
Bill's his cousin. Don't worry about it.
I'm on an island. Well, John, let me ask you about something else. Saquon Barkley. Now, you're covering the Commanders, and you see the New York Giants let this guy out of their building, and he comes to Philadelphia and is doing what he's doing. How crazy are the Giants for letting Saquon Barkley go?
Okay, not just for letting him go, but then for airing the conversation about it. That is, to me, when you talk about talking about people around the league, that was bizarre. And even people here I can't believe that they okayed that to go on the air. Like, what was the reasoning behind that? Because it was, but yes, I mean, to let him go, to lose a back like that is one thing. To let him go to the Eagles, that completed this offense, and it gives this offense a way to win in multiple ways, right? So yeah, no, that even last week I'm watching, like, why did they let this guy go?
Yeah.
You know, and why? Here's the other thing: why did they give Daniel Jones $40 million? Like that was, as they've made some ridiculous decisions over the last couple of years, and it's no surprise why they are as bad as they are. And like I talk about the front office of the Eagles, like why they're always good. You know, the reverse is true over there. Like that was bad. And again, to air it was just simply unbelievable.
Last question, John. What is your perception of Mr. Josh Harris as the Commanders owner?
Well, you got to understand, and it's going to be different than what Sixers fans are how they're going to view it. But you have to understand what I covered for 2 decades with Dan Snyder. Like it is so different here, and it starts at the top. And, you know, Josh Harris coming in was, for this fan base in particular, was a breath of fresh air. And it's calmed this franchise down, but then it was the ability to go out and get Adam Peters as GM, who then got Dan Quinn, and then they get Jaden Daniels. So in 1 year, this place has been transformed, and it did start with Harris buying the team. And I think, again, like, however he's perceived in Philly is not how he's perceived.
Yeah, I don't even know if we have a perception of him in Philly. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, and I know, you know, because sometimes you see or hear things from Sixers fans or whatever, and I love Philly. My son went to school at Temple, so like I love it as a sports town. It's passionate, but I do know how whatever they think of him there, like it's all positive because I mean, the bar was set low coming off of after Dan Snyder. Like if you couldn't hop over that bar, there was trouble. But he has done a good job, and this play, like they're spending money on a stadium that hadn't been invested in decades, right? So, you know, there's a lot of good that he's done here.
I can see that. Our producer Ray Dunn is a Temple grad as well, so
all right, there you go.
TU, cherry and white.
Go Owls.
Yeah, John, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. It was fun.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
There he is. John Keim covers the Commanders for ESPN.com.